Welcome, people. This is Black and Brown in the Woods podcast. And this is something different. This podcast is all about honoring our Black and Brown folks from our community, but in general, everyone who does hard work and gives back to the community. Black and Brown in the Woods podcast is all about taking you outside so you can heal inside. It's all about that. It's always going to go back to healing and the purpose of healing and the people who provide that. And, today is a special day for me and a special episode because not only is this the first episode of Black and Brown in the Wood podcast, it is also the first episode with the most special guest, a dear friend of mine. And I might be a little loquacious in this introduction, so I'm going to take my time with it if that's okay. But today I am honoring someone, and that's what Black and Brown in the Wood podcast is all about. We want to give our flowers to our sheroes and our heroes and other people who focus on community and giving back to it. And this individual today is amazing, and I really do mean that. And when I speak of this individual, and I bring this individual to honor in our first Black and Brown in the Wood podcast, the reason why I want to give this individual their flowers is not just because they're an amazing mother. Let's just put that on the front gate, because I always say, I'm a father first before I'm anything else. She's an amazing mother, a supportive wife, but beyond that, a go-getter. I've seen Miss Deborah Clair do many different things in her life as just someone who's on the outside looking in, and I was always in a space of admiration for this woman. And part of that, beyond being a strong mother, strong wife, a strong Black woman, sister, cousin, daughter, right? She also has this big, huge love for camp. And for me, if y'all don't know me by now, you're going to know I love camp. It's just a big part of my life. Camp saved my life. So when someone connects to camp in the way that I see it, that Deborah, Miss Claire, connects to it, it really touches me as an individual who loves camp and knows the power of it. And why I say this, these flowers that I want to throw towards Miss Deborah here and the things that she does, I think out of all the things, you can't beat the mother and the wife and all those pieces. We ain't going to try to trump that one. But what we can say is one thing she does for the community is come through for them by providing experiences through camp programming. And this camp programming is on a day-to-day basis, Monday through Friday, summer program, day camp style, and it really, really impacts lives. And that's why today's theme is the transformative power of a small camp making a big impact. Come on now. You know what that means. Let's talk about it. So today, I want to welcome to the Black and Brown in the Wood podcast, Miss Deborah Clair. Let's give it up. We're going to give that circle. Round clap right here. Thank you. Miss Deborah, thank you for coming here. Please give us some information about yourself, who you are, and all those good things.
Yeah. Well, hello. I am Dr. Deborah Clair, CEO and founder of Camp 1302. But like Mr. Adams said, I am a mother of 3 adult children, a G to 4 grandchildren. I'm a grand what do I want to call myself to my little grand dog? I'm a grand dog. I have a little grand dog. Been married for 23 years. Been with my soulmate for 27 years. Again, founder and CEO of Camp 1302, a summer day camp in Englewood in Chicago, Illinois. We've been around for 12 years. In 2025, it'll be 13 years of running Camp 1302. 2 years ago, we started our community garden, which is called the Soul Garden, where it's about cultivating the, within, Mr. Adams said, who's helping you heal? I think it is it's so in sync with our soul garden, because the soul garden was not cultivating fruits and vegetables, but it was also cultivating your soul, right? Making sure that those kids had a place to go. So doing that. And by trade, I'm a fundraiser 9 to 5. That's what I do. So Miss Deborah got a lot going on. Oh, not to mention, we just started Lead Like Fire, Fearless Innovators to Evolve, which is our after school program, which is our leadership development program for those who are coming to work for us in the summer. It was one thing that I struggled with, like kind of training trying to train our summer camp leaders to be leaders, and I only had a week to do it. So an opportunity opened up where we were able to do after school programming, which we're using now to train our leaders. So in a nutshell, Mr. Adam, that is me, Dr. Deborah Clair.
Hey, and you know what? I just on my slip up, I miss some accolades. She's a grandma, she's a doctor, right? She said some things I didn't mention, and Dr. Deborah Clair has done amazing things just within her life. As someone who comes from Chicago, and there's always this perspective that we come from a space that we're trapped in, and really we're not. And Ms. Deborah is a clear example of that. The things you can overcome, the things you can do. As she mentioned, Dr. Deborah Clair, get it right. So it's saying that, Ms. Deborah, I guess knowing, Black and Brown in the Woods, I mentioned to you the tagline here is going outside to heal inside, right? I guess, what are your thoughts when you're hearing that tagline? What do you feel about that tagline?
I think is amazing. Somebody who was raised in a city who really was raised outside. That's what we did growing up. We were outside, you talking about some double dutch, a double dutch queen, baby, because I was outside playing double dutch every day. We had to get outside. I think that we didn't realize how much outside actually helped when we did come inside. It was a release of energy. It was a time to be free. It was a time to, socialize and meet people. It was a time to interact with people. It was a time to see things that you've never seen before. So I think that when you're outside and you're out and about, you are healing in ways that I don't think we realize. I think the onset of COVID really changed the way people looked at what outside is. Outside is not bad. Even if you live in the worst of the worst neighborhoods, you have a neighbor who's sitting on her porch or his porch who is looking out for the neighborhood. Even those little knuckleheads that be on the block, they are outside. It's giving them as much life as possible. So I think that being outside to heal inside is an amazing tagline. Kudos to you for bringing that up. Trademark it. Trademark
And I really wanted your opinion on that because your opinion is important to me, but also how it resonates for you. And I
Yeah.
love that you said kind of like the double Dutch queen, right? Like, and you
Yeah.
are only that because you spend that time outside. And I
Baby,
know,
outside.
our generation being a little different didn't have the immediate resources this newer generation has, right? Our immediate resources was to go outside, go
To go.
outside and enjoy
Tell you, Miss
time, right?
Adam,
Go do something.
we walked for blocks, me and my friend. That's how I met my husband, walking down the street. I met my husband. Him and his cousins was outside. He told me he just told me he was like, I had just got jacked that day. And my cousin came and picked me up and you was walking down the street. I said, I sure was walking for blocks. My mother used to be like, you better not stand on the corner. And I was like, well, what we gonna do outside? Me and my girlfriend, we would walk outside. And it was just, we saw things, met people. It was just good.
Yep.
We were
Don't you
outside.
love Chicago? Don't you love Chicago in that way as well, ain't
Man, I love it. I
it?
love it because baby, every day you see something. I was outside today, Mr. Adam, and I saw a little dog outside in his puffer jacket, like a metallic, like Missy Elliott puffer
Yeah,
jacket. The things you see outside, it's healing. It's healing. You're gonna laugh a lot. You're gonna get some fresh air, all the things we need to survive.
for sure. Well, now that we kind of warmed up here, having a little conversation between us two, I really love to get to the topics, the questions that I prepared from Miss Deborah Clair, Dr. Deborah Clair today. And these are 5 questions that really, as I started to sit down and said, what do I want to ask Miss Deborah, Dr. Deborah Clair here, and knowing that our connection has layers to it. It's not just collaborators. There's a friendship, right? I used to serve you as a family who come to my camp, right? So knowing that there's different aspects of that, this interview was even that much more special to me. And because I know that, and I'm sure that folks give you your flowers, and if they don't, shame them, shame them. But as I give you your flowers today, and I ask you these questions, really, I want our listeners who are really taking in this podcast to check out the story. Check out what Miss Deborah, Dr. Deborah Clair is sharing with us, because this is a journey, and part of our journey that we all individually go through, whether collective or individual, right? It means something to them. It's their story, right? And this today is Miss Deborah Clair, Dr. Deborah Clair's story. And in many ways, I am so honored to be a part of that story. So, in saying that, Miss Deborah, are you ready to go on this interview here?
Let's go. Let's
All
go.
right. So I might look up and down here a little bit because I don't want to mess up these questions for Dr. Deborah Clair today. So what I'm going to do is go with the first question here. And the first question is, what makes your work a profound source of significance for you and the community you serve?
That is a good question. So let me level set a little bit. I want you to be okay with calling me Miss Deborah. It's all good. We've been there forever. The accolades, fine, but be okay with saying Miss Deborah. I'm cool with that. But the work that I do, I think that it's a profound source of significance for me. One, because I didn't think I could do it. I think that, it was it you we, too much to whom much is given, much is required, right? So I think that when I started camp 1302, I didn't think it would be 12 years old or going into this 13th year. So that is very significant to me because it started as a 1 day MLK day camp. And it was something that was brought up to me by my pastor. He was like, I want to start a school. And I was like, yeah, no, we're going to try these daytime things and we're going to go from there. And
Yeah.
so I started, doing those 1 day. And then I got selfish, Miss Adam. I really was like, I only got 1 day off between January and May, and I'm giving it to these kids. And I guess, God was like, I got something more for you because that same summer I had put in my head that I was not going to do those MLK day camps. I started Camp 1302. And I started it out of the blue, kind of. I had been doing it like I knew that the rotation, and I knew that I had to get a rotation down. I knew I had those little pieces, but mind you, that was for 1 day for 4 hours a day. I needed to make this for 8 hours for 50 kids. And
Mhm.
so just knowing that it when it happened so quickly, and I was like, okay, well then, God, I guess it's me and you, we going forward. And I said, who gonna run it? My mother had gotten laid off, so she was running. I said, I know you love kids the way, look how you raised us. We are amazing people, and you did that. Like, you were a single mom raising us. And so I think that the way you loved on us, you can love on these kids. And she was like, I guess you're right, I can do that. And then I had a church member who was like, whatever you need me to do, I'm there for you. I was like, okay, so we got this. But just getting it started just made it even more significant. And for the community, the first year we did it, we had 50 kids who did not have to pay a dime. And I kind of just jumped in there. But after some, I was like, what did I just do? Why did I decide to keep it open all day? Like, that was just crazy, but it worked. And I saw that there was a need in the community. And the other thing is the mission, the way we set it up was based on what the church needed at the time. And the church needed a place for kids who had single mothers at home. So that was also important to me because, right, my mom, who was a single mother, running camp, and now we have this program that is open for single mothers in the community. So it really, I think that that's what makes it so profound. And that it just kind of, it really, when you talk about being outside, it started from like a concrete jungle. We had nothing. And it just kind of like 13 years later, we're here. Served over 600 kids. So it's significant in that way. You know what I'm saying? So thank you for that question. That was a good question. I don't want to belabor it, but thank
Well, thank you for everything you shared there. I love everything you said. And, as I was listening to you, the theme kept popping in my head, the transformative power of a small camp making a big impact, right? It started as just a 4 hour on an MLK day, right? And then it just kind of like grew.
you.
And one of the things you mentioned that really stuck out for me is the power of community coming
Yeah.
through, supporting you, whether whether it was a person at the church saying, "I got you, I'm open," right?
Hell
Mom
yeah.
coming through and supporting in that way, which is ironic in so many ways and symbolic, I believe, when
Mhm.
you're looking upward for mom to come and help you with this vision. I think that's just beautiful, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that, Miss Deborah. So, in saying that, I'd love to move to the next question here for you, and this one is: what aspects of community work truly challenge you, push you to dig deep, yet also inspire you as an individual? And I'm gonna say that again. What aspects of your community work truly challenge you and push you to dig deep, yet also inspire you as an individual?
That's a good question too. I think that one of the challenges is always, and I think we think about this, especially being Black and Brown people, funding is always a challenge, right? But what has happened in Camp 1302, we have, and I don't mind sharing because this is always public and honest, but our budget is about $40,000. That was just because we got a grant that, helped expand. But prior to us getting that grant or those grants that made up that revenue, we were probably, I say the first year or two, or maybe up until the third year, we were on $1,000 budget. So when you talk about aspects of community that challenge, it was hard to get people to understand that we needed the money to make camp grow and go. But what I realized is that um we really didn't. We had the location. We didn't have to pay for that. We had the resource, the knowledge, right, to be able to move camp forward. And we had the people who volunteered their time to come in. We also we had the wherewithal to connect with others in the community. And the other thing I wanted for camp was that I wanted to make sure that Camp 1302 had was a camp of the community. So I made sure we did things in the community. I made sure people saw the beauty of that community because at the time I started 12 years ago, people only saw the dirt that was happening in Englewood, right? They didn't know about 63rd Street corridor coming up or Whole Foods on 63rd Street, talking in Chicago. So
Yeah.
nobody knew about what was happening in Englewood at the time. So I wanted our kids and families who was coming over there, I wanted them to know they would feel safe. That was a challenge because everything else was going on was not saying that the space that we were in was safe. But in 13 years, we have not had any issues. Anything that happens around there is happening after camp is over. So it's been an absolute blessing to be able to be. So the challenge is, and the one that truly challenges me is, how can I get more people to know about camp within the community? I don't necessarily need the news to know about what I'm doing. I don't necessarily need, the alderman, anybody to know what I'm doing. I want to know, how can we help these kids? How can we get them to a place where they're learning, growing, where they're seeing new things where they're coming off the block. I talked to a friend, Miss Beard, who was telling me, she said, Deborah, I didn't know that people in the community didn't leave from within a 4 block radius. Absolutely. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna either show you what it looked like on this side of town, or we're gonna show you what it looked like outside this community. But either way, we're gonna be a source for you. So I think the challenge was truly a challenge is to make sure that the people in the community know that we are a free resource for them and that we are going to be there as long as the good Lord says so. Did I answer your question?
You did, Miss Deborah. You very well too. And it's ironic, like, because obviously the work that you're doing with Camp 1302, when I think of it and I think of the foundation, community, right? Community and being able to support the community. And that's why I'm an advocate of our Black and brown folks, because I know that there's a lack of resources for our people in so many ways. So when people are always like, why you always like doing this for this? And, that's always my answer. Like, well, there's a lack of resources in so many ways, right? So I see you in this like space of providing these resources, but how ironic that the same victory, here's a good thing, this is the win, also is your challenge. Because like,
Yeah.
although you're feeding and fueling the community with this amazing work that you're doing that's free, let's say it again, it's free, right?
FRE, capital.
The community's not meeting you in that space. Maybe some are, but not the community that you're looking for. And
Right.
and that stuck out for me when you're saying that. And I know that's hard because me as a visionary and implemented many things, a lot of times my results weren't in provisions. It was more in the people who showed up.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying, oh yeah, I made 500 today, Miss Deborah. I was like, oh, at least 80 people showed up today.
There you go. Yep.
So 80 people got that goodness today from what I was trying to deliver to them.
Yeah.
And and it's gonna go back to that theme. I'm gonna keep saying it.
Yeah.
The transformative power of a small camp making a big impact. And you are
Yeah.
so doing that. And in saying that, we need to get the word out. We need to get the community more
Yeah.
connected to Camp 1302. And I hope our listeners, whether in Chicago or different states, can advocate for that as well.
Yeah.
So we're gonna shift to our third question here. And with this one, it is, can you share an experience in which a bold career risk you took paid off?
Hmm. Um, that's a good question. So I was sitting at my job. I worked at a Catholic high school here in Chicago, and I was sitting at my job and I had a bad meeting. And I was sitting there and I was like, you know what? I gotta do something. Like I have to make a move because I'm miserable here. And I had just started the Soul Garden, and I was like, I need wood chips. I said, Rich Dog told me I need wood chips. So Rich Dog is a good friend of yours who you introduced me to, who kind of helped me lay out the did the layout for our Soul Garden, and he was saying we need a lot of wood chips, and I was like, okay, well, God, I gotta find these wood chips. So I started calling. The first call I did, it was like, no, and they hung up. The second call was like, yeah, no, we don't do that. And they hung up. The third call, the woman was like, we got all the wood chips you want. But the first call, Mr. Adam, they hung up on me. The second call, they hung up on me and I bawled out, like just literally like, what am I gonna do? Something told me to make the third call. So I made that third call, and that woman said, I will help you. And she said, I'm also going to donate to your camp. That's not the story though. That's not the bold move. What happened after that was, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks after that, I had my performance review at work. And I was getting a performance review by a guy who had less experience than I had, who came in, they brought him in as my boss. And I was like, this dude called me for help. He called me to get my knowledge. But what I did was I told them, I said, you know what? I think this is going to be my last school year here. And I
Hmm.
walked away. I walked away from that job. I was afraid. I had all kind of anxiety. My husband was like, "It's okay, we can do this." And I was like, "Yeah, but knowing that my income sustains a large portion of the household income, right?" So I was really afraid to walk away from that job, but I walked away. I walked away in June 30th, July 8th, camp started. So I was able to work at camp for a full summer and actually see um, what I had been putting into it. And I messed up a lot because I had not been at camp, full time like that. I had people running camp for me and who was there full time. But to be able to walk away and to see that, oh, I can walk away and I have walked away, right? I think that was one bold move to show me that, you know, no matter how miserable you are in a place or how afraid you are, sometimes you just got to do things afraid and move forward and have faith and know that you don't always need to see the full staircase for you to be able to know that the next step is there.
Mm.
And I think that was really bold um, for me. And it paid off because I was able to pour so much into camp that year. I was able to see that if I needed to walk away from something, anything, I could and I would be okay.
I love that, Miss Deborah. And you know what? Like I've been knowing you for years, and I can always think of certain powerful words for you. Like if I were to reflect on you,
Mhm.
and maybe one word I really never put into category, not out of intent. It was more of just like didn't think about it, but you made me think about it now, and I think it's courageous. Courageous than a mug,
Wow.
like a gang of courage. Because
Wow.
some of the things you're mentioning and the things that you're saying you're pouring into and not knowing. And it's funny because I did a video the other day with another partner of coaching with Mr. Adam, and we were talking. The topic was letting go of fear
Mhm.
and the courage of that, and almost putting it to an equivalent of diving into a big pool that's empty,
Mhm.
and there ain't nobody there to see you fail,
Mm.
right? But you still dive. And by the time you get to the bottom of that pool, water appears because that
Mhm.
water is your belief, your
Yeah,
courage, right? So in saying that, it's just yet
that's
another
good.
thing why I want to give you your flowers and say, like, the courage that you possess, the things that you move, the people that you're putting before yourself, just
Mhm.
speaks volume of your courage and your intent of your heart work, right? Because we always talk about the work we do and how meaningful it is, and the purpose and the passion. And I feel like a lot of that in the middle of all of those things, it falls into that heart work, right? Because when you got bills to pay and take care of family and overhead, but you're still finding, parts of that pie to still split up and put into this program.
Yeah.
Big
Thank,
ups, big ups, big ups. That's all I want to say on that one.
thank you.
And and it just makes me
Yeah.
appreciate you even more. I got mad appreciation for you, you know that, and I
Yeah.
feel like this interview I walk away with more. We got two more questions here, Miss Deborah,
Okay.
and this one I'm going to really read because it's a longer one, and really
Okay.
want you to take it in. But the question is: imagine you're a tree as a vibrant symbol of life.
Mhm.
If the fruit bears represents the gifts you share with the world, what lies beneath that surface as your root?
Mhm. So I got to show you this. I don't know if you can see my little tree of life here.
I do, yeah. Yep, kind of looks like my tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think what lies beneath is my faith, right? I think that is the one thing that I hold on to. And I try to let go as much fear as possible because if you're going to have that faith, you gotta be, fearless and kind of walk in it. And I feel like that is the root and the foundation that kind of pours from a lot of things. I tell my staff volunteers that a lot of times Miss Rosa, who is now uh running camp, Miss Rosa will come to me like, Miss Deborah, we need one year she said we need $10,000. I said, I got that for you. Didn't know how we were going to get it. But I was like, all right, Miss Rosa, I got that for you. We got a $10,000 grant. And so it was an amazing just just moment to be able to say, okay, we need this. We're gonna get it. And we got it. And I think that that is the root of it all. And I think that that's how camp been going all along. I've had people come to me like, how are you doing this? I said, I just asked God to send the people and he do.
Hmm.
And I just go from that point and keep it moving.
I love that, Miss Deborah. And definitely, just what you shared there really resonates with the faith piece. And shifting to this is a two-parter question, so I didn't give
Hmm.
you that second part, but the second part was what foundational beliefs or experiences nourish your giving spirit?
Hmm.
And you
Hmm.
kind of answered that, but if you want to expand, please
Yeah.
do.
Um, we need things and it's like, how are we gonna get it? How are we gonna get it? I tell people that Camp 1302 is housed at Rose of Light Missionary Baptist Church, but we are not a faith-based camp, right? I want people to be able to come and to be able to be them full selves. So I don't want saying, hey, do you know Jesus to be the one thing
Hmm.
that stops them from coming? I want them to be able to come and see that light within us. So I think that that is one foundational belief that kind of nourishes what it is that we do at camp and how I run camp, right? Or how I see camp being ran. Um, I just, I think the one thing that if I can leave anybody who's listening with anything is that one thing I always do every summer or when it's time to start planning for camp, I'm like, okay, is this what we doing this year? And I get the okay. And then it's like, okay, well then you gotta send the people. And
Yeah.
of nowhere, there's an abundance because I just know af after 12 years that the people will come to support camp because, all I can do is tell a story. All I could do is lean on my own understanding of what I know to be true about, God, who I believe in, right? So I think that that is how I just been doing camp, and I'm not even telling people you got to believe in God, you got to believe in Jesus. I'm not doing that. I'm saying this is what I believe. This is what you're going to see when you come. You're going to see this faith-filled person who is going to believe. And there's some things I'm still kind of hesitant about, but at the same time, I know that if it was not for my faith and my belief and my foundation in that, Cam wouldn't be 13, going on 13 years old.
Give that little snap real quick. You said a lot of great stuff there. And, just for me, I take it in a few ways because of our relationship. And as your friend, once again, just really inspiring the movements, the things that you're doing, the reasons, the whys. And yeah, I think part of that, the inspiration that you bring into the table with that one, going to our last question. And I feel like you know, I'm not a camper in your program. I'm someone who cares for you, who supports you on the outside of your program. But I know wholeheartedly that your program is changing lives and saving lives in so many ways.
Sure.
And in saying that, going to my last question and to kind of like finalize our interview here with Miss Deborah Clair, um, the reason why I created this podcast and called it Black and Brown in the Wood podcast, there was an honoring and giving folks flowers who do amazing work. But for years, I was blessed to serve Black and Brown children in the woods. And I
Yes.
saw firsthand how much our children healed in different ways in those spaces.
Yes.
So the symbolism of that and why I call this Black and Brown in the Woods is all going back to healing. And right now, for the whole year of 2025, and even onward, but for specifically 2025, Coaching with Mr. Adam is hosting a movement called Who's Helping You Heal. And part
Hmm.
of this movement is to be proactive with conversations because I feel a lot of us do not have these conversations. We tend to suffer in silence. And we want to stop that. Coaching with Mr. Adam wants our folks to stop that. So, in the cultivation of who's helping you heal, the last question, because as much as Miss Deborah Claire is doing all this amazing work, giving her heart and soul to everyone, working every day for her family, doing all the things that she does. I want to make sure that you are being taken care of. I want to make sure, I want to know that Miss Deborah, the star player, is also getting taken care of by someone else, whether that is a team, a collective, an individual. So my question to you to kind of wrap up our interview here for the first episode of Black and Brown in the Wood podcast is Miss Deborah Clair, Dr. Deborah Clair, who's helping you heal?
That's a good question. You sent these questions in advance, and I was like, oh yeah, who is? But what I realized is that because I'm such a giving person and such, I can be vulnerable in a lot of ways. And I think that a lot of people take that vulnerability for kindness, I mean, for a weakness. But what I have to do is have people around me who can call it when they see it and can be like, no, Dr. Claire, no, Miss Deborah, no, that's not. And I'm like, oh, but they, no. And so those people include people like Mr. Adam, who I could kind of like, what about this? When I'm looking for operational support from camp, or Miss Selena Beard, who just recently became a key part in my life. My husband, one of your former campers, Claire Schaefer, who is definitely can be my eyes and ears. And I say they have a certain spirit of discernment that I just don't have because I have such an open and giving heart. I'm a servant leader at the end of the day. Like I truly believe that my purpose is to serve and edify. Like I am not here to tear you down. So if you come to me in a lie or with the lie, I can't really decipher that because I see the good in everybody. And so there are people around me who can call it for what it is. So and I think part of that is also helping me to heal in a way because just because people are or seem good or their intent is not always the best. And I have to learn that, right? So those people around me are helping me to see things, and then I have a God source. I'm a Jesus freak. I tell people, so I truly believe in the power of the Lord and what He can do, and I think that that is also helping. And I go there.
Hey, I love that, Miss Deborah. And thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that with me. I think I counted at least 4 or 5 people you mentioned who's helping you heal,
Yeah,
which is beautiful. And I love that you're standing in your power and expressing to folks that you also go to therapy.
yeah,
One of the things that beyond the Who's Helping You Heal movement, and the importance of letting folks know you're not alone. You don't have to suffer alone, because Coach and Mr. Adam got you. We will take care of you.
yeah.
But I think a bigger part of that, and as we close this out, um, you have done amazing things throughout your life, and you have so much more life ahead of you.
Mm.
And today, for Black and Brown in the Wood podcast, our first episode, I want to give you gratitude. I want to give you your flowers. I want to give you the things that you deserve for all the meaningful work you've done, the things that I know about, the things I don't know about. And overall, Camp 1302, the movement that you created in that, and just what you're doing with that, with Miss Lena, Rosa, just the things that you're doing with that, is so meaningful. And I know you know that. And I hope that sometimes in the midst of it, you're able to step back and take in your flowers midsummer and see it for what it is. So today, thank you, Miss Deborah Clair, Dr. Deborah Clair. And I want to just say, the theme of this, once again, we'll end it with this, was the transformative power of a small camp making big impact. And Camp 1302 is definitely doing that, but they cannot do that without this woman, this leader, Miss Dr. Deborah Clair. So let's give it up, people, for Miss Deborah. Thank you for coming through. We'll give you one of these again. Yeah. And with all my platforms, I usually give the guest the last words. I want to give you the last words. So last words for you. What do you got to say?
Well, thank you, Mr. Adams, for having me on your Black and Brown in the Woods podcast. You know, when you first came to me, I was like, I'm not in the woods, I'm in the concrete jungle. But so I really want to thank you for this opportunity. I get quite emotional when it comes to Camp 1302 because it has not been easy, but it has definitely been rewarding and a labor of love for sure. And I often envision many ways that I could grow and take Camp 1302 on the road. But I've recently come to or had an epiphany that Camp 1302 is not mine, right? I just believe that it is for the people. And so with that, I just want to say again, thank you. Camp 1302's vision is to give kids a summer camp experience of their lives. And I just hope that, anybody who's come in contact with us has had the best summer camp experience of their life. And now that we're growing to after school and now the community garden, I'm just hoping that people see the value in what urban camp can bring in the city. And feel free to give a donation or to support a camper. I want people to also know that camp is free because we have what we are calling camperships. We are, you got to be able to pay for this stuff. So if you feel the umption or the gumption to want to give, and the other thing is, I don't charge for camp what camp really costs, right? So I think that
That's
is
right.
important too, that people know that I charge $125 for two people, and I refuse to go back to charging people for camp. So I just think that it's important that the support continues to come through, and that people know that we are sincerely and truly over here giving kids, and not only kids, because Camp 1302 is not just for the camper, the best summer camp experience of their lives. So
Love it. Love it. And I'm going to share all the links for Deborah Clair in our bio. But also, if you want to donate, the links for that as well. Once again, this is Black and Brown in the Woods podcast, where we take you outside so you can heal inside. Peace, people.